Greeting to Doctor, we are from Group 6. I am Chin Yan Yu with metric numbers 280011, and here are my group members. They are Lau Choong Nee, Leong Sin Yee, Heu Yi Tong, Zheng Wen, and Lingges Saravanan. Today we are going to present our group assignment, which is about should the Malaysian government build out Sapura Energy. So now I will start our presentation with introduction. Sapura Energy Berhad is an international provider of integrated energy services and solutions that covers the whole upstream value chain involving renewables. The range of capabilities offered by the group includes development, exploration, production, abandonment, decommissioning, and revitalization. The group currently provides its integrated solution and expertise in over 20 countries, including Malaysia, Australia, China, the United States of America, Western Africa, and the Middle East. According to the Malaysian government's contemplation of building out Sapura Energy, we discovered that the issue of Sapura Energy started when it began the overseas expansion practice and extensive acquisition spree. It aspired to be a major global player in a highly competitive industry. 4 years later, in 2016, when Sapura Energy reported its first loss, Malaysia's share of Sapura Energy's profit decreased from 94% to 39%. However, we found that the Malaysian government has yet made any decision on this issue. So that's all from me. Now I will pass to the next presenter.
Hi everyone, my name is Lau Choong Nee and my metric number is 278272. Next, I will proceed to the facts supporting the issue. Sapura Energy Berhad could secure much needed financial support from the government-linked investment company Minister of Finance. Finance Minister Dr. Sri Zafar Aziz was said to put up an assistance package plan, but details of the plans have yet to be disclosed to the public. Sapura Energy Berhad announced that the Corporate Debt Restructuring Committee of Malaysia CDRC volunteered to mediate the debt restructuring discussions with its multi-currency financiers. Last, former Prime Minister Dato Sri Najib expressed his idea of bailing out Sapura Energy without costing a single cent from the government and fellow Malaysians. He pledged that it is necessary to act if there were any misappropriation, but refrained Sapura Energy Berhad from going bankrupt since the country would lose another international standard vehicle. He then proposed that Petronas take over Sapura Energy Berhad since it has the expertise to manage a company in a similar field.
Good day, Doctor. My name is Leong Sin Yee and my matrix number is 278352. I will continue to present the facts that are opposing the issue. So for this part, we choose 4 main persons. First is Dato Seri Anwar Ibrahim. He is the president of Parti Keadilan Rakyat (PRK) and a former deputy prime minister. In May 2022, he held a live debate with Dato Seri Najib Razak. In the debate, he argued that a forensic examination needs to be conducted before any government involvement because, in his view, Najib's plans for a bailout would only serve the interests of the company's elite owners. He also said that the government should first inquire about Sapura's energy management regarding their plans and whether they need assistance from Putrajaya before decide whether to save the company. Next is Rafizi Ramli, which is the Vice President of PRK. He does not support the issue because he has consistently opposed using public money to save private corporations. He said that spending billions of taxpayer dollars on a select group of companies is unfair, especially in the current challenging business environment. It is better to use the money for other activities like empowering young people and small business owners, as well as providing education loans that benefit to the citizens instead of using the money to save Sapura Energy Berhad, which had already received investment totaling billions of ringgit over the years and still continuously facing financial difficulties. The third person is Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, a former Prime Minister. He opposed the issue because he emphasized that actions are required to reduce the oil and gas service providers' losses. He said that in a business, we always earn profit, but there are also times that we lose money. So when companies experience losses, they need to discover their own strategies to reduce the losses instead of just asking assistance from the government. Last is Charles Santiago, which is an MP of Klang. He opposed the issue because he said that it is better to use the money to provide those persons in need with 200 ringgit per month in order to prevent the growing starvation issue rather than using billions of ringgits to save the indebted Sapura Energy.
In response to press reports that its share price had dipped to an all-time low of 4.5 cents on Tuesday, Sapura Energy Berhad recapitulated that the issue is still a going concern. Sapura Energy Berhad emphasized that their business segments are still working on 59 projects across the globe, with all of their client operating licenses remaining unblemished. Sapura OMV is still in charge of the operation and production business that constantly produces gas at a rate of 34,000 barrels of oil equivalent per day. The group stated that the COVID-19 pandemic has significantly worsened its short-term cash flow and liquidity problems. It has taken decisive action to tackle the current liquidity issue, including accelerating claims and commercial settlements with customers, talking with vendors, and negotiating with lenders for assistance throughout existing working capital facilities.
Good morning, Doctor. My name is Zheng Wen and my matrix number is 278952. I will continue with the moral principle that related to this issue, which is utilitarianism. According to Jeremy Bentham, the founder of utilitarianism, utilitarianism is a theory of a morality prescribed action that bring up pleasure and happiness. Utilitarianism also opposes the action that bring up unhappiness or harm. Utilitarianism also being called as consequentialist approach to the ethics and the social policy. In utilitarianism, if the action produces maximum benefits for a greatest number of people, the action is considered right even if it is immoral.
Moral relativism used to describe several philosophical positions concerned with the differences in moral judgment across different peoples and cultures. Moral relativism is the idea that there are no absolute rules to determine whether something is right or wrong. From the point of view of reason to oppose the bailout, the funds utilized to rescue the failing oil and gas firm Sapura Energy Berhad should have been better utilized to benefit the people. For as long as anyone could remember, Rafizi, the vice president of PK, has been vehemently opposed to utilizing public monies to bail out private firms. The government does not provide a bailout for private companies. He also noted the public monies were more likely to be allocated to projects that benefited society, particularly the working class. Even though many experts gave opinions about not giving Sapura Energy bailout, some experts still give reasons to support the Sapura Energy bailout. Dato Sri Mustafa Mohamad, the economic minister, said that the government should not go Sapura Energy to bankrupt because Sapura Energy is the second largest integrated oil and gas service provider. Besides, former Prime Minister Najib has also claimed that his plan to rescue Sapura Energy will not cost the government or the people of Malaysia damn. Najib said, we should not let it go bankrupt since the country will lose another international standard. In short, Sapura Energy, which has acquired up-to-date technology and international contracts and operation in over 20 countries, must be protected from the bankruptcy. To sum it up, from those politician economics and other experts' opinion, we can compare them from an economic and taxpayer stand. There is no standard or rules to judge whose opinion are right or wrong, as they think from the different perspectives and represent different sides. In the end, it will still depend on which side of benefits they consider to decide. However, from what we research, Sapura Energy does not have its own management problem, which lead to the current situation, and it's not appropriate to let those who do not have responsibilities to the issues bear the consequences.
I would like to comment based on my moral judgment on whether the government should bail out Sapura Energy Berhad. I disagree to bail out Sapura Energy Berhad. First of all, Sapura Energy Berhad is a cash-strapped firm that owes 10.5 billion ringgit in debt. The beleaguered company is currently 40% owned by a government-linked fund. Pemodelan Nasional Berhad is a national unit trust company in charge of several funds. Some of them are available to non-Bumi Putras. As a 320 billion powerhouse, PMB infused 2.68 billion ringgit into Sapura Energy Berhad in January 2019 and became the company's primary shareholder. PMB's current president and group CEO, Ahmad Zulkarnain expressed confidence in Sapura Energy Berhad's turnaround under new management. Next, any government intervention would lead to privatizing profits while socializing losses. Rafizi Ramli of the Parti Keadilan Rakyat has cried a warning call by pointing the action that if Petronas intervenes to save Sapura Energy Berhad, it will only benefit a small group of people who are already wealthy. Economic Minister Datuk Sri Mustafa Mohamad expressed his concern that the government must consider the country's financial performance before lending a hand to Sapura Energy Berhad. as there are other small and medium-sized businesses that are enduring similar financial problems. Once all but written off, Sapura Energy Berhad proved that they are on demand. The idea to monetize was once unimaginable a year ago. However, Sapura Energy Berhad's first quarter of 2022 achieved a net profit of 91.93 million ringgit from the previous quarter's net loss of 97.07 million ringgit. The company gained contract deals that were valued at more than 3 billion ringgit in the past 6 months, including client renewal thanks to their business loyalty. Contract extensions consist of pipe-laying vessels from Petronas in Brazil, long-term drilling services from PTTEP Thailand, multiple programs in the Gulf of Mexico and West Africa, and transportation and installation award from HES in Malaysia. Despite the fact that banking sources claimed that Sapura Energy Berhad was banned from retrieving working capital from its bank, CDRC has given the green light to arbitrate the company's debt. Based on the utilitarianism principle, I have made up with the decision not to support the bailout decision proposed by the Ministry of Finance. The principle was presented by Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. According to the definition, actions and policies should be judged regarding the societal benefits and costs. The only morally just action is the one that provides greatest utility in comparison to all other options. The better option for Sapura Energy Berhad to implement is to downsize their assets, and the government should refrain from intervening in its restructuring plan. Sapura Energy Berhad should also examine its management's compensation to prove to their shareholders the transparency of the company's account fairly.
Now I represent my own moral judgment. I object to the issue of should Malaysian government bail out Sapura Energy because for me, I think that the Malaysian government should not use public money to save a company with such huge amounts of debts, as it is unfair to all the taxpayers. So my first point of opposing this issue is there are many cases of failed bailouts. This can be seen in a report provided by the Institute for Democracy and Economic Affairs, IDEAS, with the title of Government-Linked Companies Impacts on the Malaysian Economy. So in the report, it is stated that the federal government has spent around 85.51 billion ringgit of taxpayers' money to save those government-linked companies, GLCS, over the past 36 years. So the first recorded failed bailout was Bank Bumiputra, where in the middle of 1980s and the beginning of the 1990s, Petronas was compelled to save the company twice at a cost of around 3 billion ringgit. Another failed bailout was Praja Terengganu, with a 10 billion ringgit in debts and losses at the end of 1995 when Bank Bumiputra and Employees Provident Fund (EPF) contributed 860 million ringgit and 130 million ringgit respectively. However, it was removed from Bursa Malaysia in 2017 and the company had roughly 2 billion ringgit unpaid obligations at the moment. So in Sapura Energy case, I think that Malaysian government should just let the current management take their own responsibilities or with private sector investments instead of using people's money, as those failed cases of bailout might occur again in Sapura Energy. Next, I disagree with the bailout of Sapura Energy because I think that the money can be used to help the poor instead of saving Sapura Energy. As we all know, COVID-19 pandemic has brought a lot of effects to us, especially the increased living expenses. So as a result from that, many Malaysians are compelled to dip into their meagre EPF savings to survive. Situations are even worse to those B60 communities, as many of them are starving due to the increased living costs. Those families are even skipping their daily diet to just one meal because they do not have sufficient money to buy the things in need. This causes the B60 youngsters suffering from malnutrition and slipping academic performance. So I think that if the government is willing to spend the money to help this kind of people instead of saving Sapura Energy, it can help them to cope with the difficulties they are facing currently. Besides, I object to this issue because I think that the biggest problem in Sapura Energy is the mismanagement. I think that many people are actually aware that the issues occurred in Sapura Energy did not develop suddenly, as they already existed a long time ago before the pandemic began. Apart from the personality conflicts, the most apparent problems in Sapura Energy is their management problems. This can be seen from the fact that the board members of Sapura Energy were receiving extra high salaries and great benefits when the company was thriving. For example, in 2018 and 2017, the former president of Sapura Energy, Tan Sri Dato Seri Syaril Samsudin, he gained 71.92 million ringgit and 84.24 million ringgit respectively, which is substantial by Malaysian standards but barely acceptable by the international standards. So in this case, we can see that taxpayers' money was taken away in order to support crooked companies like this. Yet, the public did not even gain any benefit from the poor company management and the political interference. So we have no justifications to support the bailout of Sapura Energy. Lastly, other than depending on the previous information that I said, I also decided not to support Sapura Energy's bailout based on the ethical principle utilitarianism. So according to this principle, the advantages and disadvantages that a policy or an action will impose on the community should be considered while evaluating it. The only morally right behavior choice is always one with the most benefit relative to all other options. Therefore, I think that if the money is spent to help the society, the benefits gained will be greater than saving Sapura Energy, which only benefits the handful of elites. That's all from me, thank you.
Now I'll present about the moral judgment of myself. So after understanding the issue of Sapura Energy, which has faces a huge load, I object to the issue of the bailout of Sapura Energy. I think that the Malaysian government should stop the bailout of Sapura Energy. Sapura Energy, a once glorious successful company, is now on the edge of insolvency. Even though it was the world's second largest multinational oil and gas service company at its peak, the corporation began recording losses in the fiscal year that concluded in January 2016 and has been losing money yearly after that. So in this case, I've used the utilitarianism ethical principle to help me to make the moral decision. A utilitarian ideology strives to enhance society as a whole when used to guide social, economic, or political decisions. According to utilitarianism, a decision is morally correct if it pleases the most people within a community or group. For the Sapura Energy case, I think that deciding to stop building up the company will bring greater benefit to society. This is because the government can utilize the fund initially used to rescue Sapura Energy to help or subsidize more citizens or construct more projects to develop the country. Based on the news from Newsstream Time, Dr. Awang Azman, a professor of sociology, argued that it was unreasonable for the government to devote billions of money that belong to the public to a selected number of corporations. Besides, certain economists also agree with Awang Azman's view that stresses that no endeavor to preserve Sapura Energy should utilize public funds and emphasize that these resources should never be misused to help the wealthy. Moreover, Awang Azman has stated his opinion that the government ought to leave the future to market force. I agree with Awang Azman's opinion because the government will never aid the enterprise continuously. It should let the enterprise operate independently so that the success of the enterprise will be more stable. In addition, if the government continuously helps the enterprise will tend to depend on the financial aid given by the government. Even though Sapura Energy is considered as an essential in Malaysia as it is one of the petroleum service providers, however, Sapura Energy's losses are too large. The net loss in the fiscal year of 2021 is as high as Rm 8.9 billion, claimed to be the largest loss in the history of a Malaysian government-affiliated company. It might require a large number of funds and time to turn a profit or even return to its peak condition. Therefore, if the government chooses to build out Sapura Energy, it may require a substantial amount of money and may lead to increased expenditure on the government, and it causes many developing and construction projects to be obstructed. This will cause numerous projects that brings benefit to the citizens and society are forced to be stopped or cancelled.
By applying the utilitarianism moral principle, it is morally wrong. This is because the people who will be benefited from the developing projects or subsidy will be greater than the parties related to Sapura Energy, including the 10,000 employees, 4,500 providers and vendors. The government should always consider the benefit of the majority first. It should prioritize the projects or initiatives that benefit the citizens and utilize the tax paid wisely. That's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter.
I will continue with the moral judgment. Based on the issue, should the Malaysian government bail out Sapura Energy? I object and did not think Malaysian government should bail out Sapura Energy. Although Sapura Energy is a government-linked company, but the Malaysian government should not use public funds to bail out Sapura Energy Berhad. Besides that, it is not a small amount to bail out Sapura Energy Berhad. Sapura Energy Berhad had debt about RM 10.3 billion and is at risk of collapse. It requires billions of ringgit to bail out Sapura Energy Berhad. And with this huge amount of money, Malaysian government could use the money to help poor people in Malaysia. Bail out Sapura Energy also will increase the debt of our country. Besides that, Malaysian government bail out Sapura Energy also could not guarantee the success of the company in the future. Sapura Energy Berhad need to learn from their mistake and accept their loss. I also agree with Tun Mahathir's statement which say in business, we will earn profit and there are also times when we incur loss. Sapura Energy Berhad need to analyze what are the problems that cause their financial crisis since they earn huge investment from their investor. According to a report, Perbandaran Nasional Berhad (PNB) has pumped RM 2.7 billion into Sapura Energy Berhad but lost 90% of its investment as the company's share price dropped. Utilitarianism is the best ethical theory that maybe could be used in this issue. Based on moral principle that related to this issue which is utilitarianism, the result that will make the greatest amount of people happy are the right action. The Malaysian government need to think which decision will be the best for all Malaysians. Utilitarianism opposes the action that bring up unhappiness or harm. According to the ethical philosophy Jeremy Bentham, action that bring happiness are the right and wrong if the action produce sadness to the people. Based on this issue, Malaysian government need to take the step that can make all Malaysia happy and should not focus on Sapura Energy Berhad only. Malaysian government should use those money to help poor people since the price of many daily uses product increase. Using the fund helping poor family in Malaysia would benefit to more people than bail out Sapura Energy. In conclusion, I did not think that Malaysian government should bail out Sapura Energy Berhad. That's all from me. Thank you.
Now I will share about the moral judgment based on the issue, which is should Malaysian government bail out Sapura Energy. In my opinion, I object that the Malaysian government in bailing out Sapura Energy. This is because I think that government of Malaysia should not utilize taxpayer funds to rescue any company or enterprise from bankruptcy. This was due to the fact that taxpayer funds were more likely to be allocated to projects that benefited the general public, particularly the working class people. In addition, Sapura Energy Berhad had previously received billions of ringgit in investment over a decade ago. With the injection of public funds, Sapura continued to experience financial difficulties. For example, Permodalan Nasional Berhad provide Sapura a capital infusion of 2.68 billion ringgit in the year of 2019 in exchange for the 40% ownership in the company. However, it is clear that Sapura Energy continues to suffer a significant net loss. According to the Sapura's annual report 2022, even though the net loss decreased to 8.89 billion ringgit for the entire fiscal year that end on 31st of January, the net loss will still be substantial. Also, the net debt is still increasing from the year of 2019 to 2022, which is from 8,888 million ringgit to 909,040 million ringgit. Besides, I think that the government also have to rescue the people who are in the low level or middle level incomes instead than emphasizing on saving Sapura energy. This is because Malaysia's rising rate of inflation, which has driven up the cost of food, particularly vegetables and chickens. The price of food will become expensive for all the poor people, as a result leading a hunger crisis. According to the statistic of inflation rate by Man Group in Malaysia that proposed by the Department of Statistics Malaysia, it shows that the inflation rate of Malaysia rise 3.1% from January to August in the year of 2022. Food and non-alcoholic beverage improved by 7.2%, which is contributing to the rising rate. The rise in the subgroup of meat, which is 9.2%, following by cheese, eggs, and milk, which is 7.3%, was the biggest contributor to the growth in the CPI's food and non-alcoholic beverage group. The Department of Statistics Malaysia additionally reported that the vegetable subgroup of CPI gained 5.1%. The department also stated that the increases in the cost of fertilizer and pesticide on a global scale is to account for the increase in vegetable costs. Therefore, it would be wiser for the Malaysian government to utilize the funds to assist those who fall within B40 range. To protect the public from the hunger issue and the rising living expenses, the government can provide them with some money every 2 months. In order to maintain cheaper prices for the B40 regions, the government could also provide subsidies to chickens and vegetable farmers. Last but not least, I will object about Malaysian government in building out Sapura energy based on the moral principle of utilitarianism. According to the utilitarianism theory of morality, it suggests doing things that make others feel good. Additionally, utilitarianism is opposed to any behavior that causes damage or unhappiness. Even if an activity is immoral, it is considered right if it results in the largest number of individuals receiving the most advantages. Hence, despite government continues in building out a company that will meet profit loss in long term, but it would be better if the government used the funds to improve the quality of living of the communities. That's all for me. Thank you.
A very good morning to Doctor. I am Lingges Saravanan. My metric number is 281690. Now I am going to present about the moral judgment of myself. After analyzing the issues of bailout Sapura Energy, it does not make sense of the government of Malaysia to save the Sapura Energy Berhad. Rather than trying to save the financially struggling Sapura Energy Berhad, it would be more helpful to provide the money to those in need. Would be more helpful. It would have been more beneficial to put those cash towards something more valuable than trying to save the oil and gas company, Sapura Energy Berhad. It is optional for the government to spend billions of dollars from taxpayers' money to support a small number of firms. In addition to this, I made the observation that projects that benefited the working class in particular and the broader population as a whole were more likely to receive support from the government. I have made peace with the idea that I will not be voting in favor of the proposal for financial assistance that has been proposed by the Ministry of Finance. It will not be fair to people who pay taxes for the government to use the tax money to try save a company that such as enormous amounts of debt. Last but not least, in this case, I have used the consequentialism ethical principle to help me make the moral decision. According to the principle of consequentialism, if the results are bad, then the action itself is bad. An action with more positive outcomes than negative one is good, whereas the opposite is not. Sapura Energy's financial burden has grown unsustainable as a result of having to make an annual interest payment of around $500 million ringgit. It was emphasized that such monies must never be diverted to safeguard the wealthy and powerful, and it is imperative that Sapura Energy Berhad does not use public money to maintain its continued existence as a business. Always and without exception, we must stand in opposition to use of tax money to save for profit enterprises. For the Sapura Energy Berhad case, I think that deciding to stop bailing the company will be greater benefit to society. This is because the money set aside to bail off Sapura Energy can instead be utilized to build infrastructure, provides aid to the needy, and generally better the lives of Malaysians. The government does not provide a bailout for private companies, that public monies were more likely to be allocated to projects that benefit of society, particularly the working class, and also the Malaysian government help or subsidize more citizens and construct more projects to develop the country. Provide a bailout for private companies, the public monies were more likely to be allocated to projects that benefit society, particularly the working class. That's all from me. Thank you.
In conclusion, the final decision of our group on the issue is to object the government to build up Sapura Energy. There are a few reasons that we oppose the building out. The first reason is Sapura Energy is facing cash trap issue and is of approximately 10.5 billion in debt. The second reason is the government should not utilize the money collected from taxpayers to rescue a company with such a vast amount of debt, as this is unfair to the taxpayers. The third reason is there are many cases of build-up failures in Malaysia. The last reason is company that faces loss must find ways to mitigate those losses. Nevertheless, if we were to exit those failing business, this would not be the business. Our group members have used two moral principles as guidance when doing decisions. The majority of our members have applied utilitarianism, and only one of our members has employed the moral principle of consequentialism. However, although we are using different moral principles, the moral principle brings a similar meaning. Both of these moral principles propose good results to be enjoyed by the greatest amount of people. Besides, our position, which is opposed to the issue, is unfair to certain parties, especially the company's stakeholders, including the employees, stockholders, customers, and vendors. However, as we are making decisions based on utilitarianism, we have to make a good decision that will benefit the greatest number of people. Last but not least, our team recommended that Sapura Energy should be taken over by Khazanah Nasional BHT, and Sapura Energy should improve its management team. That's all from us. Thank you.